I think everyone likes a good old-fashioned, hey, I was wrong video, and I do have to say this, right? I've been meaning to do this video for a while. I think most people, whether you watch my channel or you see me on, BGST or Mooch's channel with Crossfire or whatever, I was really out and against Game Pass, right? Just for me, it kind of goes against what I traditionally thought of in the console space, and that's fine. I was wrong on a couple of things, and I also think that I was maybe a little bit right on a couple of things, but at the end of the day, I probably jumped the gun with some of my actions, and so for that, hey, apologies. I'm definitely man enough for that. First of all, I want to say I think that it's a good value, and I get why Microsoft is doing it, and there's probably a multitude of reasons. First and foremost, obviously they really care about bringing value to consumers. Secondly, it's probably a good way to get notice to some of their exclusives that maybe a lot of people don't have in the back of their minds when they think of Xbox. Let's be honest, Crackdown 3 has a negative stigma around it. That game could have possibly released and completely bombed, and now people at least can be curious enough to drop that $10 and try it out and maybe get hooked and love the game, right? It could help save it. Who knows? And this is something where Microsoft maybe doesn't have what would be considered an extremely strong lineup this year. If you look at what Sony's offering, they have big titles. God of War is a big title for them. They also have, obviously, Spider-Man, if that releases, and Days Gone or Detroit. So even if just some of those release, it's still a really successful first-party year for them. And Microsoft has lesser-known titles, and while we're all excited for them, they might not be as sexy as the ones that are offered on the Sony side. So I could see a little bit of desperation in there as well, which is good, because desperation is sometimes the best asset of a person or a company, right? And I think that this could really pay off well for them. My initial reaction was, well, what's to stop them from going third party? Well, the thing that actually stops them from going third party is the fact that they lack enough content to do that, right? If you look at Sega, they publish so many games, they own so many IPs, and because they have studios that put out these IPs, right? Microsoft doesn't. I mean, sure, they could put out the Gears, Forzas, and Halos or whatever, but outside of those first-party studios and Minecraft, which was third party before they acquired it, which is very tricky legally to kind of pull, and how do you make your money back off almost $3 billion unless it's on everything? So I can definitely understand that they can't go third party because they don't have those studios and assets to do that. So when you think about it, it just kind of doesn't make sense. So there's my bad on that. Secondly, I think that this is a very friendly thing that people are given options, as long as I have my option, because I still buy physical sometimes. I buy digital. I do like to buy my games, though. I'm not really one of those people that and just like when they do the streaming, which that's going to happen in the next couple of years, right? They're going to do streaming services for games. That's not going to be something that appeals to me, but just like Sony's streaming service, it doesn't have to. It's just an option there that I'm never going to use. I'm never going to touch it. And that's fine, as long as I can always just download and play my games or pop my game disc in and play my games, I'm happy. Now, maybe that might change 10, 15 years in the future, and then I'll have to take that as a, 50-year-old person, but you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, I'm just enjoying what they're offering, and I think that it is a good value, and hopefully it's something that, also another thing I want to point out, I jumped the gun on that quite a bit, and I don't really think that Game Pass is a big deal. And now when I say that, I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean that it's a play anywhere type of deal, in my opinion. And I know some people might take that wrong and go, oh, Crap's just mad or salty or something. But it's not really the truth, right? I just don't see this as something that's going to be an incredibly big deal. The lack of advertising, for one thing. The second thing is people do still like to own their games. I can see Game Pass is working for some of the hardcore that maybe didn't want to try State of Decay 2 or Sea of Thieves or Crackdown 3, and they just want to drop that 10 to check it out, and that's fine. But I just don't think it's going to be like this big game-changing experience or where Sony and Nintendo gotta follow. I don't see that happening, because Microsoft's games, if you look at what's going in there, Sea of Thieves, Crackdown 3, State of Decay 2, those are games as a service type games, right? Games where it's just constantly playing multiplayer and there's like co-op and things like that. Sony and Nintendo don't really have that. So they have more single player experiences, which means they would just be playing single player games, and people would really take advantage of that. So they have no need to really copy and follow and do what Microsoft is doing. At the end of the day, I think that Microsoft is doing what's best for Microsoft, and they'll bring the service to PC and stuff like that, and then they'll see a little bit more success because they've been looking for a way to monetize the PC side for a while. They can't charge for gold because they know that nobody would do that, and they've tried that before. So this is the way they're going to have to do it, monetize it by giving people a really good value with their games, and I think people will sign up at that point. So it's an interesting thought. I was wrong with a lot of my assumptions originally. I think some people handled that wrong with the attacking and things like that, but at the end of the day, we're all human, and we all kind of just make mistakes sometimes, and sometimes we can be faulted for it, sometimes not, but at the end of the day, I just kind of wanted to clear the air. I think that it's a good value. I don't think it's a big deal in terms of millions of people signing up for it, but I do think that some people that maybe wouldn't have tried some of these exclusives will now finally try them, and that's a good thing. So let me know what you guys think. Maybe we can still be friends. Rack 'em up. Crapgamer out.